Our guest tonight is Mr. Faiz Versey, who has traveled all the way from Gaborone. We have been in communication since January, and to be quite honest, I stumbled upon Faiz, and we talked, and I met him for the first time today, but we've been talking via email and via phone. He is a financial author, and he's written a book, Route to Financial Success, and he has very kindly offered to come to Francistown to be our speaker for the month of March. Over to you, Faiz.
Thank you very much, Sadia. Let me see if I can manage to get this sorted out. There we go. Richard, you got some sound there? Yeah? Great. So good evening, Francistown. I hope I'm not too loud. Is that okay? You can hear me back there? It's great. It's absolutely okay. Good. It's great to be back here. Actually, to spend a night here. I think I must have passed through Francistown at least 1 or 2 times in the last 10 to 15 years. But I used to live here, like way back when in the day, and I'm talking about 1970. Were any of you here in 1970 here in Francistown? No. You were. Okay. 72. Okay. So I think it was 1970, maybe even earlier than that. My dad's a doctor, and I think he was working for one of the government hospitals over here. And I'm sure he must have come and played tennis at this place because he is an avid tennis fan. So he's retired now. And so here I am here back in Francistown. It's great. Went to the school here, John Mackenzie. The only thing really that I remember now, my memories are a bit vague, but I do remember the football field because after 1 o'clock it was onto the football field until the parents would pick us up. So that was my main memory from Francistown. So thank you everybody here for having me over here to talk about this book. A quick introduction about, let me just get back to that. Let me see let me see a bit about the audience over here. My topic today, I've been asked to talk about the book. So my topic is financial success, and I'm going to ask 2 questions. So let me just ask the questions, and then I'll ask for a show of hands. So the 2 questions, the first one will be, how many of you think that you're still, or how many of you feel that you're still early on the journey towards financial success? And so the second question, conversely, is, how many of you feel that perhaps you've already reached a certain level of comfort in your financial success journey? So the first question is, how many of you feel you are still early on your journey towards financial success? Can I have a show of hands? Okay, so we got a few people here. And how many of you would feel that you've achieved a certain level of financial success and are comfortable where you are today? Don't be shy. Okay. So how many of you are rich?
No one likes to admit that.
Okay, so we'll, people can point, that's all, that's okay as well, you can just point and say, okay, so we'll assume that maybe a few people are also quite close to the journey of achieving financial success, which is great. This book, it has information for both groups of people, those who are early on the journey, as well as those who have perhaps reached a level of financial success, because certainly we want people to get there. But the thing is, once you get there, then there are some traps along the way, and you need to know a lot about how not to fall back down again. So today, what I thought I would focus on, because I see a number of hands going up that say we are still early on the journey to success, and that's really my understanding of where the majority of the people are in the world. So I'd like to just today, for the few minutes that I have about 10-15 minutes, I'd like to focus on that journey and talk about that. Would that be okay with everybody? Yes. Okay. And that's the reason I want to focus on that is because, oh yeah, now I should just quickly go back and introduce myself. So my background is that I'm a chartered accountant and I'm a personal finance expert. And what allows me to give you this information, enabling you to tell you about this route to financial success, is essentially 3 bodies of knowledge. The first being my formal education in accounting and finance and around those areas. And secondly, which is God's great gift to me, is the amount of time that I spent with rich people. That's really what enabled me to understand how do rich people get rich. Because I myself don't come from a rich background. In fact, I come from a professional background. And the third body of knowledge that I bring to the table is simply that when I learned, unfortunately a little bit late in my life, but when I learned what my rich clients were doing, I started to follow their practices, and by God's will I was able to create a certain amount of wealth for myself, but I'm still on that journey. So let's talk about this journey, about how to get rich or how to become financially independent. Oh, we can use this sheet of paper. So what I'm talking about here is, if we have on this axis money, I'm going to put dollar, that's a universal currency. I could have used Pula, but this book really is a global currency written for the world. And let's say on this axis I have time. Did I hear somebody say time? Yeah, good. That's great. So you're all with me. You're all here. Am I right? Is everybody here? Turn to the person to your right and to the left and give them a high five and say, I'm glad you're here. That's great. Okay. So now what I'm talking about is, let's say that we have somebody who's down here, meaning early on their journey towards financial success. So they're at point A, and we want to get them to a certain level of wealth. So let me draw a line over here and say we want to get them to this certain level of wealth, and we'll call this level of wealth the financial independence number. The financial independence number. So this is where we want to get this person. So we want to go from A to B. We'll call this point B. So this is a very big journey. Like I said, it's a very important journey, and perhaps the first 1/3 of my book deals with this journey. Once you get here, though, it's not the end of the journey. There's much more. There are traps here which could bring you right back down again. But today I won't have time to get into that. If you do get the book, then you'll have a chance to read through all of that. Today, let me just talk about this journey. This is a very important journey because on this planet, on planet Earth today, we have this huge imbalance of poor people and rich people. Those of us who are in the finance field, I've met one gentleman here who's also in the financial field. We have the saying that the imbalance is 99% versus 1%, meaning 99% people are poor, and in that we lump the middle class as well, but these are all people trying to achieve financial success, and only 1% are well off, are rich. So we have too many have-nots and very few haves. This is a big problem. This is a problem that we have to try and solve, and this is my attempt at trying to solve it, to solve this poverty problem or this huge imbalance that we have in the world. And the reason for that, one of the reasons for that is that people just lack this information, what I'm going to share with you tonight. This is stuff that was never taught to us in school, never taught to us in university, and our parents don't know it either. Otherwise, we wouldn't have this problem, 99% versus 1%. So what is this journey? Let's go through this. I've broken this journey down into 4 steps, which I call MSIP. So MSIP. So MSIP is the journey that one needs to take if one's going to go from A to B. It is a long journey. It can be 15 years. It can be 25 years. It can be shorter. It all depends on you, how quickly you are able and how hard you're able to work on this strategy. And I must say, whenever I say that this is the route from A to B, meaning from wherever you are today in your journey towards financial success to an ultimate goal of being financially independent, there's no guarantee in that. There's no guarantee that after reading my book, listening to me, taking my courses and programs, you'll achieve this. This is entirely up to you. And of course, a lot depends as well on how much God is smiling on you. But it stands to reason, if somebody has reverse engineered this process for you, then you won't go around in circles in your life. You'll be able to attack this issue, and then it's up to you how much you're able to get to this position. So now, the first step over here is M, which stands for making money. Now this is where my education differs completely from the education that's out there in the world today in respect of financial education, which starts at the point of talking about savings and investments, which is it's all good stuff. I got no problem with that. But tell me how to make my first million first. That's where the education should start. And it starts over here. And this make money issue is a big problem today, because The world has changed significantly in the last 50 years, and I don't think people are clued up. They haven't figured this out yet. What are the changes? So, would you like to know what the changes are? Yes? Okay, great. There's essentially two changes. The first one is I don't have an example of it, but we all know when I'm going to mention it, is the computer chip. The computer chip was developed, or should I say invented in 1958. And since then, the computer chip has become more and more powerful and smaller. And then the machines now that use these chips have become smaller and more miniaturized. And as a result, they're being able to do the jobs that human beings used to do. So for example, one of my clients gave me a wonderful example of this process, and he says, like 10 years ago, he's in the hardware business. Anybody here in the hardware business? No? Okay, you'll understand what I'm saying. He said to me that many years ago, if I had to offload my truck, I would need lots of labor. But now today, I just need a forklift and a fraction of the labor. Now, this process is called automation. And this is the name of the game in business around the world. You'll see it everywhere. Just 2 or 3 days ago on the internet, I read a report about, so this is not just blue-collar workers. I'm going to give you an example of white-collar workers, meaning those of us who are in office jobs. Oncology, something to do with cancer, I believe. There's now computer technology which is more accurate in diagnosing cancer than oncologists. So I'm not saying that they're going to be out of a job very soon, but that's now, the writing is on the wall. Technology is here and is getting more and more advanced. Now, what this means for us, this is absolutely huge. What this means for us is that in the old days, we used to be used to working for these large corporations for life. But today, these large corporations are either downsizing or disappearing altogether. And previously, where we were used to this idea of having a job for life, and then a plush pension plan, because they would take care of us in our retirement as well. Now that's all changing, and it's all disappearing. And therefore, we have to be very careful about this. I'm going to come to what this means further in a few minutes. So we have to understand that the whole process of the income generation, the make money part, is now changing. And there's a second issue I'm going to talk about now, which again is something that I feel people don't know about, but it impacts your life tremendously. And the second issue is the global manipulation of money. Now, it's a very technical issue, but I have tried to explain it in a very simple way in my book, but let me try to do it in a simple way now, verbally. What this is that it started sometime at the beginning of the 20th century, which means 1900 and something, 1910 or so. But it gathered steam around 1971, when the US government cut the link between gold and the US dollar. Now, once they did that, it allowed the governments of the world. So this is something happening at the top level, the government level, the central bank level. That's why most of us who are not at that level, we don't know what's going on, and we get hit by this. So what happens is the governments of the world are now able to print money, and very briefly, what that means is it's created a lot of instability in the whole global environment, economic environment. And we get these rolling booms and busts that go around the world. So what does it mean for us, ordinary people, just trying to make a living and have a decent life? What it means is we don't know when the next recession is coming. And so here I am, going along merrily in my life. I don't know this process. I'm using my money. I'm mortgaged to the hilt. I'm taking on too much debt, spending too much money. And then all of a sudden there's a recession, and boom, I lose my house. I lose my job. I lose my car. My family's in trouble. I can't send my children to school. And all of a sudden, we have problems like we have now. The banks, they're in big trouble in Botswana. So the thing is, we don't know what's happening at the top level, but we need to. Because all of that affects our life individually, whether we're going to have food or not. So these are the two big changes that have happened at the level of making money, which brings me to my next question, let me ask the question. When it comes to making money, the good news is there are essentially just two ways to make money. So let me ask if anybody can help me out here. What would be those two ways? Can anybody take a guess at that? Yes, ma'am?
You can either be employer or employee.
Lovely. So she's answered both. You can either be employer or employee. So you can be in business or you can be an employee. And that's essentially it. So the thing though now is going forward in the new.
Sorry, you can make money through investing.
It's an excellent point. We'll come to that. We'll come to that. It's a little bit further down the road. Okay, but we're talking about generating the money initially. All right, investing certainly is an option, but it's a bit of an advanced option. But I'll come to that. And please remind me if I missed that point. So now the thing about making money is that the process now favors being an employer, being in business. In the old days, we had jobs. We could rely on these large corporations. But now these corporations are not existing anymore. Then we have to now, as a new career, as a career move going forward, especially for our children, we have to encourage them to think about entrepreneurship. Because that's where we can create our own paycheck and create our own job security. Job security, as it is in the world today, is now no more there. And as I explained, it is slowly and slowly going away. So when it comes to making money, you have to now become very, very educated about the entrepreneurship side. And that's something that I deal with. I also talk about the job side. I'm not at all discounting the job side. You can go up this path both in the job side and as an entrepreneur. The job side requires some very specific measures, which I mentioned in the book. And if you take those steps, then hopefully you make it. But you have to also hope, and you have to be a bit lucky that you go up the ladder as fast as possible in your company. Otherwise, you also need to understand entrepreneurship, and that's also explained in the book, so that when we have the skills around entrepreneurship, then we can also look at that as a potential way to start making money. So, Sadi, am I doing okay for time? I forgot to ask you to sort of tell me how many minutes. Can I carry on? Yeah? A little bit. Okay. So what I'll do now, I'm going to go a bit fast, but all these topics are explained in the book. Are all of you with me so far? Yeah? Okay. Am I going too fast? Is it okay? But I'll still have to go a bit fast. So now once you've made money, or once you start making money, and now you've got some surpluses in your pocket. Okay, sorry, I jumped the gun there. Once you start making money, what is the next step? The next step is that you've got to learn how to save it. Now, this is a very big issue. This is a very big issue because in the world today, we are being bombarded with advertisement, and we are being brainwashed to spend our money all the time. We've got to now learn how to tackle that and rewire our brains. One of the richest people in Botswana, he asked me once, he said, Faiz, do you know why I'm rich? I said, no, I don't know why you're rich. He says, I'm rich because I take care of my money. Now imagine that. Here's a rich person. What he was saying was, take care of my money, meaning I know how to hang on to it, so I know how to save. So if here's a rich person saying, I save money, I hope that all of us can do the same thing if we want to follow in those footsteps. So the second step is to save money. It's another very big topic, again, dealt with in my book, because you first have to master the psychology of saving, and then only can you get to the techniques of saving. Both are equally important, but both are now described in my book. I won't go into further detail at the moment. After you save money, I'll come to this gentleman's point over here. It's all about now, how do you invest that money? Okay? And now when it comes to investing, again, I'll mention very quickly, there are two options. One is called capital gains, and one is called cash flow. Now, capital gains means something like, if I had this, if I bought this for, let's say, $100, and I waited 6 months, and somebody bought it from me for $110, then I made capital gains. The price went up. But let's say, alternatively, I'm going to use an easy example. Let's say I bought a property for $100, and every 6 months it gave me 2 pula, or $2. So then I'm making a cash flow of $2, right? So cash flow means money coming back in my pocket. Capital gains mean price appreciation. So now in the world today, we've got this constant, we've got both opportunities available to us. Unfortunately, people here make the mistake of going for the capital gains first. That's something that should come much later. That's what rich people do. They go for cash flow. Now, cash flow means investing in things. I'm going to give a couple examples. Like property is the main one, but you can have many other examples. There are many other examples. I won't go into too much detail. Let me leave it at property as an easy one. But that really is how rich people are getting rich. They have sweat equity here in their businesses, and then they invest in real estate, and that's what helps them push them up. But the game is not over yet. the game's not over because we haven't reached this point. This is absolutely critical. This is the holy grail. This is where you have to aim for, and this takes a lot of time. This takes a lot of guts. This takes understanding this principle, and this takes a lot of application. And this P stands for passive income. So passive income means something like rental property, for example, getting rent, where you don't have to go every day to collect your rent, but you have to go to a job every day to do your job. Right? So that's not passive income. That's what we call earned income. So what rich people are doing, they're earning earned income here because they're going to their job every day, but they're trying their best and as quickly as possible to convert. This is huge. This is $1 million advice right here. They're converting their earned income into passive income through this process. So what they do is they take their money, they save it, they buy, let's say for example, a property. I'm not saying property is the holy grail of investments. Property has a lot of pluses and minuses, so please don't take me in that regard. I've explained all of it in here, the pluses and the minuses. But for example, if it's passive income, you're going once in a month to collect your rent. Now in the meantime, you can be sleeping, you can be enjoying life, you can be contributing to charity, you can be doing the things you want to do. So this is the holy grail, but it only happens, this process is being repeated again and again, and it only happens until your passive income is in excess of something called living expenses. So, for example, if I had 120 pula of passive income per month, my expenses were 100 pula, I'm sorted. Do you follow? Yeah? And this is another $1 million advice. Rich people at this stage, I mean, we have living expenses throughout. We have to live, we have to eat, we have to drink, we have to pay for fuel, we have to incur clothing costs and so on. But rich people keep their living expenses in control. Very hard thing to do, okay? Because once we start making more money, automatically the advertising is coming at us, and kaboom! We want to buy the bigger house, we want to buy the bigger car, we want to go on bigger vacations. So this is another $1 million advice. Rich people do not go out and buy the bigger car. They still drive the old car until they can't repair it anymore, which is probably 30 years later, by which time they can buy a brand new car. When you get here and your passive income is in excess of your living expenses, you're fine. Okay, so I'm getting a big broad look from Sadia there. So this is how, once you've done this, once your passive income is in excess of your living expenses, you have arrived to this point. There's much more to the story. But what I'll do now is, can I take a couple of questions? Yeah? Okay. So maybe one or two questions. Anybody from the audience? Anything. If it's not on this topic, on anything financial, whatever you'd like to ask, I'd be happy to address it. Yes, sir.
My name is
Mohideen, yes, sir.
I just walked in.
Yes, sir.
Look at your aim part of it. However, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
In a case where the children inherit from their ancestors,
Yes, sir.
right, and still they have passive income,
Yeah.
right? And they are very comfortable.
Yeah. Let me come closer to you if you don't mind.
Where
Yeah.
does it fall?
Say that again.
Where does it fall?
Yeah, okay, that's a brilliant question. So let me just repeat the question for everybody and for the camera as well. So if I got you correctly, we've got a situation where these children who have inherited wealth, they have passive income. Now, where are they in this scenario? Yeah, is that your question? Okay, so that's an excellent question. They are part of this equation, and they're actually part of what comes further, which I couldn't go into today, but let me briefly answer your question if I may. And the gentleman's name is Mr. Mohideen. So these children who are now second generation rich, okay, this is a big issue for the people, for wealthy people. What do we do about our children who see money bubbling out of the ground? Yeah? When they see money bubbling out of the ground, well, in our industry, the financial service industry, we have a saying that says, shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. So you started off working hard, you became rich, your next generation enjoyed the riches, the 3rd generation blew it. All right? So, but hey, how that used to be the case, and that's still the case today. But how can we do one of two things? Either we can delay that back to shirt sleeves, or we can just empower them to take that base and keep the wealth for themselves and for future generations to come. So the answer is education. So if the next generation who has not gone through this pain, who has not had to tighten their belts and not buy that car, they can go and buy a car whenever they want. they need this education to say, okay, what is the pain that my parents went through? Once they know this, that gives them a foundation to say, okay, now let's have that discussion with our children. See, what happens is the parents, the rich parents of the children, they are enjoying their life. They don't have the time necessarily to sit and educate on all these points. So the idea is, let's educate the second generation about these points and then educate them about how to lose as well. The next part about this is how to lose. Okay, sir. I hope, does that answer your question?
It does.
Okay, great.
I would
Can I just come closer to you also? Yeah.
To maybe for purposes of asking on behalf of most of the people, you get a situation where a lot of people are in debt. So, you can't make money when you are in debt. In fact, now the solution that they need is to actually, how do I then get out of debt before I can start making money? So, I don't know if it's a question, but what I'm saying is, do you think this advice would be appropriate for a person who is deep in debt, and how would it help that particular person?
Wonderful, sir. And your name?
Tebo.
Okay. Deboko, thank you. That's another fine question. And the question is, did everybody get the question? It's about, look, if I'm already in debt, I mean, I'm not going to get rich. What are you talking about, right? So that's an excellent question. And now the reason he got into debt, all right, we got to start at the root of this problem, all right? And the root of the problem is described in the book. But let me take a couple of minutes to tell you where it is in the book, or just to discuss with you briefly. So the reason the person got into debt is that he didn't know this strategy. Look, very few people know the strategy. Even I didn't know this strategy. And that's why I'm saying my one sorrow is that my own financial journey would have been so much further had I known this when I was 25 years old. I also went into debt. But then, in fact, the story is very simple. Maybe it relates to it's interesting to relate to what you've just mentioned. And this is a very sad story, and it's actually there in my book. When I graduated, immediately I was inundated with credit card offers. So I'm sitting, after graduation, you sit outside, and there's all these guys, they're saying, hey, my credit card, whatever, right? And I said, can I get this? Because before that I was a student. I said, yeah, you can get it, no problem. So here off I go, I filled out as many as I could in 15 minutes before my friends pulled me away. And I got 5 credit cards. 5 credit cards, each of them $500, without me showing any income or anything, $2,500 worth of credit. I very quickly went into debt because here I'm a student. I've been poor for those 4 years. I had to work to pay my fees. Now, all of a sudden, I can go into a shop and buy any shirt I want. I can buy any shoes I want. I can buy any pants I want on this plastic card. So I did that. And then 2 years later, was it 2 years later? Or some years later, I got married. Now, by God's will, I got married to the right woman, because when we got married, the first information I had for her, I said, honey, guess what? We're $5,000 in debt. And she says, what is that? Because her family doesn't come from that background. They're like, if cash, we spend. I said, we owe the bank some money. She says, what do you mean? How did this happen? I said, this is how it happened. It's exactly what I told you. And lucky for me that she was with me, and for the first 2 years of our marriage, we lived extremely lean. So we had to go back. When you've got a problem like debt, it's not going to go away. You have to deal with it. It's your past. You've got to deal with your past, then only you can move forward. So for 2 years, we didn't have a lavish, no, we were in love, and by God's will, we're still in love, so we had a great time. But we didn't see movies, we didn't buy clothes, we didn't go on vacations. Every spare penny was going into paying down this debt. 2 years it took me to pay off $5,000 worth of debt, and when it did, thank God, after that I've never been in credit card debt again, or if I use a credit card now, it's for the purpose of convenience. Yeah. So to answer your question, sir, I think the problem is that when people don't know this journey, they get into things like overspending. They don't have the why. They don't know why they should be saving every penny, why they should not go out for dinner tonight, why they should not go out and worry about buying a new car. Because if they knew this journey, then they'll know that the journey starts off with whatever money they're making, the next step is saving. It's not about spending money and getting into debt. Okay, sir? So we have to get this whole idea to them, give them the why, but there's a specific information in here how to get out of debt. There are 3 steps. Let me leave that for the book. Okay. Does that answer your question?
No, it does.
Okay, sir, thank you. Okay, Sadi, I think that's we're okay with that.
I think we've had a nice presentation.
Sorry.
My name is Dominique. I'm also from the Rotary Club. I'd like to just thank Faiz for his nice presentation. Everyone is going to benefit from the presentation, I hope, especially those who are in debt. It's digest it overnight, start acting about it tomorrow. And I'd like to thank you for coming to Francistown on behalf of Rotary Club. This is a token of appreciation for your speech.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.